Well, good evening. My name is Mitchell Meyers, and it is January 15th, 2019, and I have the honor and the privilege to interview Estelle Shwiff. How are you this evening?
I'm fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. So tell me your full name and birth date.
My full name is Estelle Meyers Shwiff. My birthday is May 18th, 1923.
So that makes you 95 years old?
That makes me 95.
Fantastic. So Estelle, how many children do you have?
I have 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. Jody, I have Seth, Ron, and Mitchell, and my daughter Jody, and also Debbie Shwiff. She's part of our family too.
Fantastic. Do you have any grandchildren?
Yes, I do. I have 6 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren.
Fantastic. What are your names of your grandchildren?
Well, I have Mitchell's children, which would be Alexa and Logan. I have Ron's children, which would be Meredith and Scott. Yeah. And then the great-grandchildren are Olivia, Riley, and Gavin.
Very nice. Does your daughter have any children?
My daughter has 2 children, and they are very, very darling to me and to my family. And it's Jody's children.
Yeah. Your grandchildren.
My grandchildren. That would be
Okay. Well, let's move on. So you have you said 6 grandchildren?
yes, and 3 great-grandchildren.
Okay. Okay. So tell me why. If you know why you named your children Seth, Ron, Jody, and Mitchell.
Yes, I will. Some of them were named after relatives, and the reason we named them after some relatives was because these were respected family people, and we wish to perpetuate the name, basically. And the rest of them is because it was a combination of musical beginnings with the beginning of the first and last name.
Very nice. So, spouse? Do you have a spouse or had a spouse?
Oh, I have a spouse. He's not here now with us anymore. And Sonny Shwiff, a delightful person that incorporated his family and my family together. Delightful person.
Fantastic. So, in Dallas, when you were here, were you involved in any activities in Dallas that you can tell us about?
Oh yes, a lot of activity, especially because I had children and we needed to find out activities. We played tennis, we went visiting art galleries, we played games, and we were basically a together family, which I most enjoyed.
Fantastic. So, did you have any jobs as a young person?
Oh yeah, I did. Enjoyed every moment of it. A lot of the jobs at the beginning were volunteers, and I was a teacher at the JCC for little children. That was fun, you know. And then I went on to more civilized organizations that needed help. The autism group, the hearing impaired group, and so on. So it was part of something that I had to do.
Excellent. So you told me earlier that you were a teacher and you taught kids that had autism. So can you talk about that a little bit more?
Oh yes. When I undertook a project of children having autism, it was a far removed knowledge of where did autism come from? What was autism? In other words, there was no organization to help it. But today I will say I'm very, very proud that it is now national. There are many organizations that sponsor, make money for the research in autism. And I felt that I was one of the starters and am proud of today's world as compared to 50 years ago.
Yeah, this was in the 1950s or 60s?
That's correct.
So fantastic. So tell me a little bit more about you and what you like to do. Were you members of any clubs that we should know about?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to say I love tennis. I tried to play intelligently. Well, that didn't happen. I belonged to a financial club where there were 10 ladies who were interested in learning about buying and selling stock, buying and selling real estate. And at one occasion, I took my son, Mitchell, in the car with me, and we drove down Central Expressway, and there was a big sign which said, 50 acres for sale. I was very excited. I spoke to the agent who was in charge of it and said, please come to my group and tell us about it. And when he showed up and told us the price and everything, I thought, oh my God, this is heaven. We're going to be millionaires. In the meantime, one of the ladies' husbands said, oh, don't be silly, it's so far away. Buy Sears and Roebuck. Well, that's the end of that story.
So you didn't end up buying the 50?
No, we did not.
Okay, well, that's too bad. So you also told me you did plays. You were director of plays. Can you
Oh,
talk
at
a
the
little bit about
JCC, yes, I enjoyed directing plays and using the youth in the JCC. And all I can tell you was it was fun, so much fun. I, the director that was not a director, and the students who were not actors were actors.
But it was fun, and you
But it
taught
was
them
fun,
all.
and we displayed it, and parents came and they applauded. I don't know why, but they did.
Well, that's fantastic. So your kids were going to school here. Do you remember they were bar and bat mitzvahed?
Oh, yes, everybody was bar mitzvahed, and they did well. They were taught well, and I was very proud of them because they were respectably bar mitzvahed.
Very
and
good.
bas mitzvahed.
Very nice. What synagogue were the kids bar?
Sheriff Israel.
Fantastic. So tell me about some of your friends when you were growing up in Dallas or when you were here, as a young adult.
Right. Oh, I had so many lovely friends, and it was so easy to have friends. There was no complications. We would meet together. We would have dinners together. We would bring, each friend would have dinners at each person's house, bringing covered dishes. Yes, covered dishes. And it was fun, but unfortunately today they're not here. And I do miss them, but...
Okay, well that's great. So were you a religious family when you were here in Dallas growing up with your kids?
Moderate, very moderate.
Just
yeah.
through the bar mitzvah?
Just through the bar mitzvah, right.
Hebrew school and so forth?
Hebrew school, attending some services at Sheriff Israel. But basically, I would call us very moderate in our religion.
Okay, so what advice did you try to instill in your children when they were growing up?
Yeah, well, I had a very strict code of what I wanted them to be, and how do you want that to be successful by starting when they were very young. Respect was very important. Family life was very important. Integrity was very important, and also helping those that needed help. Basically, that's what I instilled.
And did it stick?
It stick. I cannot tell you how proud I am today of my family. They were supportive, they are supportive, and they're my family.
Fantastic. So were you a member of any civic organization? I know we discussed a little bit about B'nai B'rith. So can you talk
I was
about
the president of B'nai B'rith, yes. And the civic organization that was, I don't know if you call it civic, but I studied to go to SMU so that I could maybe become a lawyer, but it was for a background of pro bono for the hearing impaired. There was no strong organization to help the hearing impaired. And since I am so familiar with the sign language and love law, unfortunately I didn't make the qualifications that SMU wanted. But I had been called many times as an interpreter when an occasion arose between not understanding the hearing impaired and the hearing impaired not understanding the speakers.
So could you say, my name is Estelle in sign language?
Oh, of course. My name is Estelle in the sign language.
Fantastic. I think that's great. So we're talking now about the 1960s in Dallas, and I know there was a lot of events that occurred that were probably profound. I mean, obviously the assassination of Kennedy and his brother. And can you talk a little bit about that time and
Well, at that time,
growing up and having kids in there?
yeah, at that time, I feel that my family, they were impressed. Let's see, they were impressed with the sadness of the Kennedys,
Martin Luther King.
Yeah, Martin Luther King, some civil rights that were denied, and going to the moon. That was something. So while they were in that period, they were learning. They were learning.
It was a troubling time in the 60s
Yes.
with the civil rights. And so you may or may not have seen, growing up here in Dallas, with some of the signs like whites only. Do you have any recall about that? Or
I do. I have one recall where we were in I don't know whether it was a mall or what have you, but most specifically over the water fountain, it said, "For whites only." And then on the other water fountain, it didn't say anything. It just let you use your imagination.
Yeah. So I'm sure that had an effect on you and how you taught your kids as well. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe them that I did not appreciate division of people because of color, race, or whatever at that time. And I feel very fortunate that my family grew up with some tremendous feelings of their own, and that's why they are very important people today.
Fantastic. So what you're saying, I guess, did it shape your kids the way they think
Yes,
about things
it did.
today,
Yes.
politically and
Yes.
about
Yes.
society?
Yes.
So I know at the time Dallas was probably a very conservative city,
Yes.
and I'm sure that shaped you and shaped your kids as well.
Yes, it was almost country. It was almost like a country because you could travel on the roads. There was room for cars and room for turning around. And today is so crowded. But that's progress, and that's growth.
And progress and growth, that's right. So besides tennis, what was there anything else that you enjoyed doing for fun with your family or without your family?
Oh yeah, we tennis, watching games at the schools. I was a part of that organization, being a parent there when needed, and we watched baseball, football. They were loud in the Dallas Cowboys, and they should be because this is our town.
But they were great in the 60s, 70s,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Winning Super Bowls.
And we went to projects. There were many school projects that in sports and activities. So yes, we were very busy. You can't leave 4 children to do nothing. We have to go. We have to do. We went to art galleries. We went to bazaars, or I don't know what you call a bazaar.
Flea markets.
Flea markets, yes.
Garage sales. Estate
yes.
sales.
Oh yes.
Fantastic. So let's jump back into your life a little bit more and tell me about any jobs or businesses that you worked at or owned, perhaps.
Yes, I'm pleased to say that I started the Florence Art Gallery with the help of a family that wanted to have a gallery, and they loved art, and they wanted to have, excuse me, they wanted to have art in their name and buy art. So they asked me to run an art gallery. Little did I know about the art gallery, but I always loved art. I loved music. I learned very quickly, very quickly. And so the Florence Art Gallery was established, and there I was, eventually the owner, and eventually 25 years later, I gave it up to my family.
Well, that's nice. Now, who is the family that brought it here, and how did it get here, or where was it from? The Florence Art?
The Florence Art Gallery was established by Giorgio in Florence, Italy, and we communicated, and with the hands of the Italian, and went like this, Estelle.
That's nice. And who was the family here in Dallas?
Mr. and Mrs. Gold.
Mr. and Mrs.
Right.
So you was this is the early 70s? We're talking about?
Yeah.
So when did you come to own it?
Well, there were some difficulties within the Gold family, and this was more or less a burden to them. And so Sonny and I very quickly said, okay, we'll buy it. And that's what we did. We bought it, and for 25 years enjoyed the pleasure of artists like Van Johnson, Simbari, I mean, you name it, and the Florence Art Gallery brought them here like flies. They wanted to be established in Dallas, and I was the only one that had that kind of a gallery. Most of them were Southwest and Western Gallery. So my timing was perfect, really good.
Fantastic. So now Van Johnson, is that the movie star?
Van Johnson, a cute story if you don't mind. Someone presented his art to me, and talking it over, what, the name Van Johnson? Well, whether the art is wonderful or not, he is. And the lines were around the corner, and people were issued in by police, 30 at a time, 40 at a time. He was so gracious. He was almost delicious, really. Very warm, very understanding, wonderful memory. And he was the highest paid actor at that time.
Well, that's very cool. Any other actors or entertainers you enjoyed or saw at that time?
Oh, well, I loved music, and so Frank Sinatra came here once, but I couldn't get him. I just loved the music of Frank Sinatra. I loved the fabulous rhythm of Michael Jackson, and I loved having orchestras, big orchestras, which there are none today. There are none today. You're talking about Tommy Dorsey. You're talking about Harry James, and so on. And they drew everybody for dancing, for happiness.
So you saw Frank Sinatra?
Oh,
right.
Not only did I see Frank Sinatra, I stared right at him, and he stared right back into my eyes, and I'll never forget that. Did you know his eyes were blue? I mean, blue eyes.
Well, didn't they call him Old Blue Eyes?
Yeah, they called him Old Blue Eyes, yeah.
So that's great. And Michael Jackson, did you
Oh,
watch
Michael
him?
Jackson. We took some guests to see Michael Jackson here, and we sat, believe it or not, in the 4th row, and believe it or not, we never sat down, because the first 3 rows stood up screaming. He was a marvelous entertainer. He really was.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
So what professional accomplishments are you most proud of, Estelle?
I believe autism. Well, first, let me preface it by saying my family, okay?
Well, professional, so...
Well, that's a professional
Okay,
job.
yeah, I'm sorry, housewife is a professional mother, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, autism.
So teaching autism.
Teaching autism, and it was so unbelievable that no one could understand what autism was or how it became a subject for little children that they knew had autism and didn't know how to handle it, basically. While I was teaching them, I wrote 3 volumes of everyday activity with them. And but as I said before, groups have come to understand autism is something to do with the nerves, the lack of the nerves touching each other. And today they're wonderful. They understand. They can live sort of a normal life, and they make money for research. I think that's my proudest outside activity, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So also, in the 1970s, I don't know, were there, and Are there a lot of women business owners?
No,
It seemed like
no.
you were one of a few here, maybe in Dallas.
No, today this word power is really true. Today there are more women on TV, on advertising, on news, and presidents of big organizations. In my time, maybe there's one or two or three or four, but that was it. Women were put aside. I think the world thought that women weren't as smart as men, but if you'll excuse me, women are very smart.
Yes, they are. I agree. So tell me, what are your proudest moments as a mom or a parent?
Seeing what my family is all about today. They're supportive, they're all comfortable, they have homes, they have children, and it's nice to look at them now. I don't have to bring them up anymore. They're already brought up.
There you go. Well, that's fantastic. So just a couple more questions, and then we'll see if you have anything you want to offer besides what I'm asking you. But so what is the one thing you would like people to remember about you?
Well, it would be hard to say. There are so many people that are not here anymore to remember me, and so that would be difficult. But in my own mind, I am proud of helping with the hearing impaired, being an interpreter when required for them, and the autism case. And I think that's enough of,
Okay, great. So I guess to carry on, like for future generations, because of what you're leaving here, what advice would you like to leave for the next generation?
Well, for the youth today or the people coming up today, you own the United States now. You must watch politics. You must vote, which is very important. You must learn what the Constitution is all about and live properly and fight for the rights that you believe in. After all, you are our future. The youth is our future. And today's world, not satisfying at all. In fact, if I may just be personal, I would say it's a disaster, and we don't need this. What we need is unity, and the youth of today, you are our unity.
Okay, I think that's great to leave to next generations. Fantastic. So is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to add today, Estelle? Add to?
If you feel we're finished and that I've satisfied the interview, it's up to you to tell me if we're finished.
Well, but is there anything you want to add to the interview?
Well,
Any chance?
yes, I'd like to boast a little if I might.
But boast away.
Okay. We have a little organization at where I live, and we are called the Blow Hearts. And I'd like to say good night. Good night.
That's fantastic. So let me just say thank you very much for letting me interview you today for the Dallas Jewish Historical Society. Estelle, you've been a pleasure to talk to, and I'm so happy I got to do this.
Thank you so much. I'm not usually so free to talk, but it seems I didn't stop tonight, did I?
Did great. Hi, my name is Mitchell Meyers, and I'm here again with Estelle, and we are doing an interview on January 15th, 2019, and we are coming back on to record, make sure that Estelle touched on all of her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mitchell. That's very nice of you to do that. In my enthusiasm, I seem to have not forgotten, because I can't forget my family, but my son Seth, Ron, Mitchell, and my daughter Jody, and Deborah Shwiff, who is also a member of our family. And the wives are, my daughter-in-laws are Angela, Janice, and Teresa. And one more time, if you don't mind, may I read about my grandchildren, which would be Scott, Meredith, Ari, Jake, Alexa, and Logan. I wouldn't miss saying that for the world. You're all so sweet, and I love you. And then my great-grandchildren would be Gavin and Riley and Olivia.